Hear that? That's the sound of someone trying to steal your crypto. Every day, thousands of hackers online are doing the same. That's why Arculus uses air-gapped cold storage technology to protect your assets. Using our keycard and wallet app to form a protective barrier, Arculus insulates you from hackers and puts control of your digital assets back in your hands. Order the first truly air-gapped crypto wallet at getarculus.com.
Merkel Media.
I need to talk to the only person on the face of the earth that knows who RC Christian is. And so I did digging. I found Wyatt Martin's phone number and I called him.
Who's Wyatt Martin?
He's the banker that handled RC Christian's account to build the Georgia Guidestone.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard. I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I am your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Iconic, Rockfin, Odyssey, probably not YouTube, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thank you so much. We appreciate your amazing and continued support. And we can't do the show without our sponsors. So Chemical Free Body, they've been great to us. They've been so good to me that I have to stop doing cardio at the gym because I lost so much weight from taking this product. And I'm not even really sure that it's supposed to make you lose weight, but it makes you feel so good and it gives you so many all the nutrients that you're missing that I think my body's just working a little bit more efficiently, and therefore I'm losing a ton of weight, which is kind of nice, but maybe a little bit too much. Anyway, if you're interested in following my bizarre weight loss journey it didn't mean to be a weight loss journey, you can go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro. There's a little video I did that's like 2 minutes long showing it. That was a couple of months ago, and it's continued since then. So at the rate I'm going, there might not be much left of me. But I encourage people to take a look. And if you use the promo code MACRO on your way out the door, checking out, it will save you a little bit of money there as well. They have free shipping inside the United States. Everything in there is chemical free. There are no chemicals. Tim James is insane about it. He's so insane that when he asked me who does my merchandise, because he wanted to get some shirts made, I told him, and he said, do they have an organic cotton option? And I said, no, they don't. And he says, I can't use them then because I can't have any chemicals in any of my stuff. So it's good for us as the consumers. So I would encourage people to just take a look, just go over to chemicalfreebody.com and read a little bit about it, see if it's right for you. And if it is, maybe pull the trigger. And since, one of the most popular shows that we did here a couple of weeks ago was the one that was getting ready. And it was talking about prepping. It was talking about additional revenue streams. It was talking about all kinds of interesting solutions. And it's made me, more so than ever, really want to get people thinking about being prepared. And My Patriot Supply was nice enough to create a landing page for us called preparewithmacroaggressions.com. And if you go there, you can take a look. They've got a couple packages they put together for us. One's a 4-week emergency food supply, and one is a 3-month emergency food supply. So, in that episode that we recorded, I talked about earthquake kits, and the offer still stands. If anyone is interested in getting my list of what I put in the kits I was building, I'd be more than happy to send that to you. Just email me at theoctopusofglobalcontrol@protonmail.com, and I will send you my earthquake kit. But with regard to like the food that you're going to want to put in it, you might want to go to preparewithmacroaggressions.com and take a look, because that's something that my earthquake kit didn't really get into too much. It was just like a couple granola bars and things like that. But they have done, these containers will last you for literally months. So the food in there will last you for months. If it's sitting in your shelf, it'll last you for 25 years. So they've really done an amazing job. So please consider going to preparewithmacroaggressions.com just to get yourself thinking about it. Start prepping. One of those situations, man, you'd rather be a month or two early than a day late. And considering the supply chain issues that we've seen lately, I think that could very possibly be in our future. So you're listening to these crazy shows, you might as well take the additional step and do something about it, right? Because otherwise, what's the point? Well, I'll tell you what the point is. The point is that we've got Tony Merkel on the show today. And I think the first question is the question that is really probably, I would say, on everybody's mind. And that is, what does the goddamn line say, Tony? How are you, buddy?
What's up, man? Listen, I finally made it to the big times. I'm excited. Man. This is good.
Well, look, I mean, the cat's kind of out of the bag. I mean, the truth of the matter is, this show would not have happened without you, and would not happen to this day without you. You are an integral part of this. You talked me into doing it. You were the one that you were saying, I think you might want to do it. I really think you might want to do it. And other people had asked me, had suggested it. And then I had some weird things happen where I logged on Tinfoil Hat Facebook page for whatever reason. I was on there, and this big sign came up that said, "When is Charlie Robinson going to do his own podcast?" And I was like, God, that's like got to be the universe, right? And then after that, you call me and you're like, you need to do your own podcast. And so, well, here we are. So for those of you that are curious, the reason why the intro starts with "What does the goddamn line say, Tony?" is in fact a nod to Tony Merkel, host of The Confessionals. Yeah. My good friend, here to talk to us about hopefully everything.
Whatever.
But, we've got some heavier episodes coming up in the next couple of weeks that are going to be dealing with 9/11 and all of these things. And I really wanted to have some fun on the episodes leading up to it, so that they're informative, but not the most life or death, not super duper serious. And your show, The Confessionals, man, it's so good. And you want to talk, I mean, it's a serious heart attack when you're listening to it, but it's not like, we're not solving geopolitical things. It's ghost stories. Yep. It's Bigfoot. It's like the hair on your arms stands up when you listen to it. Dude, the whole thing is great. What have you been working on lately?
Oh, man. Listen, first of all, I appreciate you saying all that. And listen, man, I first heard you on Sean Atwood with the whole Epstein stuff. And that's when I contacted you for my show. That was back when, I felt more comfortable talking about this stuff publicly and not fearful of cancellation and things like that. But we connected then. I had you on a few times on the show and stuff. And when I started focusing in on who Charlie Robinson is, and I started seeing you on all these different shows and listening to you talk about all these different topics, I was like, this guy He needs to be. He needs his own show, and so I contact you, and I started a company called Merkle Media, and I was producing other people's shows, and I was just like, listen, we need to do something here, pal. I mean, this is like, you are long overdue for your own show. So I'm glad you took my advice on it and started running with it.
Thank you for the. Sometimes you just need a push. I mean, I love this medium of being able to talk and have like long form conversations and there's the barriers to entry are really low. So some dummy like me can have a podcast, really anyone can. And so the idea, it was always kind of somebody else was doing it. It was never, I was going on their shows and to promote my books, but the idea of doing it and being on the other side of the table, it was like, well, I don't know, I guess. And then I started thinking, well, this is why people that are like baseball players wind up going into becoming baseball managers, because they know the game. And I thought, well, maybe maybe this is just the next evolution for me, is to go from just writing books and talking about the books on people's podcasts to then having a platform where I can invite people on and talk about the crazy shit that I find interesting. And then I think, though, like you were kind of like instrumental in this, saying like, if you think it's interesting, there's probably other people out there that think it's interesting too. So here we are with Macroaggressions, the little show that I didn't think anyone would listen to, and now it's kind of it's grown a bit bigger than I thought it would. But I really enjoy the ability to just come on and have people just get into some interesting topics, stuff that you'll never ever hear on your nightly news or on traditional television or on the radio or on NPR or any of these places. And truth, and that's podcasting, man.
Yeah. I mean, podcasting has opened up so much ability for people to truly start learning how to think for themselves, because they get hit with so much information they wouldn't get on mainstream media, that it forces them to say, wait a second, what this person's saying makes sense, but if it's true, that makes me second guess everything I've ever thought, because the media says something completely different. And so podcasting, I'm a big fan, and obviously, and I encourage other people to do it. And what I tell people is, listen, are you really interested in something that you know about it a lot and stuff? Most people have something in their life they're interested in that they know a lot about. Then do you think there's 100,000 people on the face of the earth that have the same interests as you? Probably. Just got to find them. That's all. That's all you got to do is find them. So, listen, I know we're here to talk about this stuff, but I could talk about podcasting forever, but we'll.
Well, I mean, the thing that blew my mind. So when you and I first started on this, I was recording these monologue episodes, and before I was doing any of the interviews, I was recording. I just recorded like 20 monologue episodes, and I kept thinking, nobody's listening. I mean, obviously, you don't know if anyone's going to be listening, but I'm recording it by myself. It goes into a digital file. It goes out into the universe. And to me, maybe nobody is listening. And then after about, I think it was like 8 months in, someone told me about Chartable, and I went to Chartable, and it ranked, and it shows all the podcasts. I don't know. It takes the RSS feeds and it shows a ranking of it. And then it shows where you are within the world, in all the countries. I mean, if you are on the charts in any of these countries. And I was like, this show went to number 1 in Pakistan. And I went, how? How does in the government section of Apple Podcast, how does this show become the number 1 show in the government section in Pakistan? And I'm going, I don't know. And then I looked, and it was all of these really obscure places. We're huge in Turks and Caicos. Number 1 in Turks and Caicos. all the time. don't know why. Mauritius, something about beautiful islands. I don't know. There's something about that. But it then I was like, it wasn't about the rankings. It was just like a realization that there are people on the totally other side of the planet from where I am sitting that are getting into this show, this information. And that's kind of cool. And so with you've been doing it a long time and your show is massive. And I mean, if it blew my mind the first time it's happened to me, but I'm curious about you, like cause you have a very interactive audience too. And you have lots on the Patreon, and you have you go and interact with your audience a lot. And so I'm curious, have you had some like really bizarre or really interesting things happen from people on the other side of the planet?
Well, I'll tell you, I guess, I mean, early on and stuff, I hawked my stats. I mean, when I first started podcasting, I started seeing these different countries popping up, and I was like, whoa. The big crazy thing for me was, for about 2 or 3 days. Now, I maybe even 24 hours. 24 hours is long enough for me. My show, The Confessionals, actually cracked the top 200 of Apple Podcasts, period. Like not just the category, like all podcasts. Like Joe Rogan's number 1, and I was like 186 or something like that. I was like, holy crap. Like,
that's a big deal. There's like 900,000 podcasts on it. I mean, I think seriously, I think that the last number I saw was 850, but that was like a year ago. So there's got to be at least 900,000.
It was crazy. And so, I mean, for me, that was the one of those moments. It's just like, holy crap, that's a lot of people that tuned in, And so, it's a fun ride. I kind of over time have kind of taken a back seat to kind of observing my stats as much, because I'm just like, I know people are tuning in. I just got to keep moving, because when, like, I mean, as the show grows and gets bigger and stuff, there's more work involved and stuff. I mean, you were talking about the show that you were doing. You were getting so many emails from people about the earthquake kits and stuff. I mean, you just put one thing out like that, and all of a sudden you got like 10 times more work you had than last week, and you're just like, crap. Like, I still got to record a monologue.
I had literally over 1,000 emails from it.
Oh my gosh, man!
And so it's cool. I mean, it's a great thing. But did you ever think, when you're going through school and everything, all this schooling was going to prepare you to talk about Bigfoot to like hundreds of thousands of people?
No, I was somebody who should have dropped out of high school, let alone go to college. And so I'll tell you, man. So I went to Bible college and dropped out. And so I did have some public speaking training though through Bible college. And, even that though wasn't great, because they wanted me to do it a certain way. I was like, no, I don't like doing it that way. So I'm not going to do it. But I started doing the whole Bigfoot stuff online, Facebook, and kind of diving into the topic and things like that. And, as time went on, things kind of fell a certain way, and I found myself podcasting and people, listening to my show and coming and asking me questions about all these different topics, UFOs, abductions, hauntings, demonic things. And I'm just like, how did this even, how did we get here at this point? Before I tuned in with you, I was just talking to a guy on Instagram, and I have a totally separate Instagram account for something else I'm doing. And I had told him that I'm a podcaster, and he asked what it was about, and I told him and stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm so interested in that. And we were talking, I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, because here I am talking to somebody for the first time in probably years that, I'm literally introducing my podcast to somebody that didn't know about it. And I'm like, how did I get here? Like how did this all happen? It just kind of, when you are passionate about doing something and you just put all the effort in and you become obsessive about it, it just snowballs. And that's what happened for me. I mean, I just put all the time in, like every waking moment I put into podcasting, and here I am 5 years later. So it's been an interesting ride. But yeah, we on the Confessionals, we're talking about, Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, abductions, everything. I mean, anything along the lines of the paranormal, I mean, we'll talk about it. We have people come on the show. The whole point of the show is people sharing their experiences with this stuff. So it's not me coming on telling people what it is, not having researchers on really. It's just everyday, ordinary people that contact me and say, I got a story I want to share. And they come on, they share it. And some of the stuff is, haunted homes, just more general type stuff. And then some of the stuff like episode 175, I'll never forget it. Melissa comes on, she's telling her story and it's already creepy and stuff. And then she gets to the point where the whole attack happens again in her house. And whatever this thing that was like haunting her life pulls her out of the bed and drags her down the hall and into her living room. And her husband was at work and she calls her husband. He has to come home and stuff. And now whatever was plaguing her whole life is now transitioning to her son, who's a little boy. And it's just like, that story was just so crazy. And I'm just sitting there listening to this, and I think I had just had my son, and I'm just like, holy crap, man. Like, because before that, I had always said, like, it was just a common thing. It was like tongue in cheek, but I was like, people would say to me, well, aren't you afraid something's going to happen to you when you're talking about this stuff? And I'm just like, nah, when's the last time you heard of a demon killing somebody? And then I hear her story where this thing freaking drags her down the hall. I'm like, well, maybe if there's a knife nearby, something else could have happened. Right. I'm just like, holy crap, man. But yeah, man, it's a wild ride when you start diving into these things and you start experiencing other people's experiences, and you hear these stories, and you're like, man, this stuff is crazy. And people who maybe don't dive into these kind of topics and stuff, one of the questions you'll get is, well, do you actually believe that stuff? I do. And the most simple reason, because I haven't experienced nearly as much as most of the people on my show have, but I personally have talked to probably going on thousands of people now personally of their personal experiences. And through all those conversations with people, I just like, as a podcaster, you play the numbers game. Okay. So when you're kind of budgeting, trying to figure out how much my audience is going to be interested in this one thing. So you're like, I got this number of people. And then, of that number, how many are going to be interested? And then of the interested number, how many are actually going to go and do it? All that stuff. And so you do the same thing I do the same thing with this stuff. I'm like, of all the people I've talked to, could any of them be lying? Sure. Could 100% of the people who tell me these crazy experiences be lying? That's hard for me to believe. Could 100% of them be lying or crazy? Still hard for me to believe. And when you listen to some of the stories that I've personally had on my show, you are left walking away saying, wow. And either that person is a really good liar, 100% crazy, or that really happened to them. And if it's the third option, a lot of times people have to reconsider how they view the world around them, because it's bonkers, man.
Yeah, it's easy to be dismissive of this stuff if it's never happened to you, and if it's never happened to you, then it sounds crazy, so it's easy to say that it is only coming from people that are actually crazy. But I don't know if I ever told you, I had one paranormal experience. Don't know what it was, but I was at home with my wife at the time, and this was in Las Vegas, and we were just standing in the kitchen, and it was like 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday, I think, and the cat just jumped up on the kitchen counter and started hissing at the lights. And then the lights started flickering, and then the whole house started shaking. And I was like, I was thinking, is there a helicopter right above our house? And why would there be a helicopter right above our house? But the thing that freaked me out the most was the cats, the reactions that the cats had, because it was universal. It was simultaneously, they both had the same reaction. They freaked out, and they'd never done it before, and they've never done it since. And so I see that, and I'm going, okay, this is weird, but in my head, it can still be a short-circuiting electrical panel or something. I don't know. But I'm trying to justify. It's definitely not anything unexplainable. That it's still in that realm. But just to be on the safe side, and just to be extremely specific with me talking to a potential, I don't know, let's just call it a ghost, right? I guess maybe this was the writer in me to begin with, but I said out loud and in front of my wife and the cats and everything, okay, if you want us to leave, turn the lights on and off 3 times. Like, and before it came out, I was being kind of like, almost like a sarcastic ass, you know, kind of like I was kind of being a dick to it. Like, okay, if you really want. Before I even had a chance to get the final word out of my mouth, the lights went off and on and off and on and off and on. And I grabbed my car keys and go, let's get the fuck out of here, to my wife. And we just walked out the door and we got in the car and we drove to Green Valley Ranch Casino in Henderson and sat there at a slot machine. Now it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I go, now what do we do?
You just got evicted.
I go, we gotta go home at some point. I mean, what do we do? And I was like, okay, I said, a lot of times shit like this happens when somebody close to you has died and you don't know it yet, but they've died. And then you have some kind of weird thing happen and you like piece it back. You go, oh my God, at the moment that person was dying, that something weird did happen. So I said, you call your parents, I'll call my mom, And so we checked in. Everyone was still alive. Everyone was fine. And so we're like, all right, it wasn't that. And so I said, so we called her kind of wacky aunt who knows about stuff like this. I've mentioned her in the stories before. She's the one that was married to the guy with the gray alien that touched the foot, and gave him like practically a heart attack. So we call her because we figure she's got to know more than we know about this shit, right? And she said, go back there, but be very direct and tell that thing to get out of your house, right? And I was like, okay, she's our best resource here. I mean, it was two morons trying to figure this out. I mean, it was a comedy of errors, but and the whole time we were kind of like half laughing at it, because we didn't really know what to do. So when we went back home, I made the announcement to the house or whatever, you can't stay here. You're not welcome here. You have to leave. I got real serious. I said, don't hurt us. Don't hurt our animals. You're not welcome here. Get out. And we never had an issue from that point on. I don't know. We never had any electrical problems. We never had reports of a helicopter over that. I don't know what it was. I still don't know what I didn't see anything, to be clear. I didn't see like a ghost or I didn't see smoke there was nothing visual except for obviously the lights going on and off, but I didn't see anything. There wasn't anything else happening. The sound was undeniable though. I mean, it felt like it felt like someone was just shaking the house. I grew up in Southern California. I've been through plenty of earthquakes. It wasn't an earthquake-like feeling. It was really strange. So wow. that was my paranormal thing. That's it. And so like, I have no resolution on it. So I wonder, like, just in my one dumb experience, which I didn't ever really feel terrified. I was curious and kind of like, I was a little spooked, but I didn't feel like it was going to get me. So I didn't have all these things. But I never got any resolution. Does it bother your listeners if they can't? My assumption is that when they tell you these stories, they never got a clear answer either, right? Is it something that just stays with them forever and they can't shake it and they feel like they have to talk to someone about it?
Yeah, that's a lot of it. I mean, a lot of people find it therapeutic to have a conversation with somebody that they know isn't going to say you're crazy. And I'm just a sounding board. I'm basically a facilitator of conversation about it. And people find it therapeutic. And a lot of times people say that at the end of an interview or after we're done and stuff, they're like, man, I feel good. I got that off my chest. And, it's one of those things where people... most people don't go looking for the paranormal experiences. It happens to them, and a lot of times it happens, people who, like, you had one experience, but a lot of times people are having multiple experiences throughout their life, and it usually starts in their childhood and just carries on. And in those situations, people, their entire lives being haunted by something, they're forced to come up with reasons as to why this is happening, at least think about it. And so I always use this example in the show because it's very effective in trying to paint a picture for people. So when I interview somebody, I don't need to agree with them on how they view their experiences in order for me to have a conversation with them. And the way I define it for people is, if you were to take an atheist and a priest and you put them in the same room and they have a paranormal experience together, like they're there together, they're going to walk out of that room describing that experience very differently, because they both went in with different worldviews completely. And so when it comes to this kind of stuff, people are very similar in that sense, where they're growing up in a paranormal environment. Sometimes it's because of what their parents are involved in. Sometimes it's because of the house or the property they live on. But everybody has their unique situation that they're experiencing this paranormal in, and it helps shape their worldview and understanding of how this all operates. And then they kind of take that and they build on it moving forward in life. And so by the time they're adults and stuff, they have their own personal way of viewing this kind of stuff that makes sense in their mind. And when they come across a show like mine where they're being exposed to other people's opinions on very similar experiences that they've had themselves, but this person over here is experiencing what I experienced, but they don't view it the same way as I view it. It forces people to kind of think, okay, well, what's really going on here then, And then when you start hearing people's experiences with different categories that line up with other things. So like you could have somebody's telling they're telling their experiences, and they're experiencing hearing these different voices. No, they're not crazy or whatever, but like they're starting to have this certain experience, and then you're talking to somebody else, and they're describing a lot of similar things that this person described over here, but this person over here is talking about a demonic experience happening in their home, and this person's over here talking about running into Bigfoot in the middle of the woods. And there's a lot of similarities. And so it starts making you think, what's going on here? I mean, people talk about how with Bigfoot on their properties, if you're just walking through the forest and you stumble across Bigfoot, it's kind of hard to, draw conclusions on things. But there are people who have property that these creatures are on, and that it's like they have an ongoing experience with this stuff. And when that happens, a lot of those kind of people are describing paranormal type experiences along with the Bigfoot experiences. It seems like things go hand in hand sometimes. And it's just kind of weird,
That's why it's been this kind of goof, but I've heard it a lot lately talking about like interdimensional Bigfoot, and it always kind of, my initial thing is to always laugh, but then really I start to think, well, hang on a second. Some of these paranormal experiences have, like, if it's like a Venn diagram, some of them overlap, some of them have multiple features and things like that. So, I got in, I'll tell you what genre of paranormal experience I'm into, and it's missing 411, and they won't, and he won't talk. He won't give his opinions one way or the other. You know what I mean? So you don't know how he feels about it, but the cases are so crazy, and he also, I know, has done some Bigfoot research, but he doesn't bring that into Missing 411. So when you're listening to him talk about these cases, or you read the books, you're always like one deviation away from Bigfoot. You're also one away from like portals and things like that. So even though he doesn't come right out and talk about it openly, I feel like there's so much that there's like a paranormal component to it, maybe, that they're still trying to figure out. So I mean, and you're talking to people that are having it's the people having experiences are not limited to being inside homes. You're talking to a lot of people that are outside, out in the woods, running into Bigfoot, outside, and having experiences with Dogman and things like that. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I'm just curious if anyone has ever given you like told you about an experience or something that's made you feel like you could ever really kind of figure out what was causing it? Like, or, could you tell, like, what in somebody's story about Bigfoot that they absolutely positively saw something?
Yeah, I'll tell you, you just brought a dog man. I'll tell you a story that just happened recently on my show. I'd say 2-3 months ago, we put it out. A guy named Kyle came on, and he contacted me in an email. And when I read his email, I was like, holy crap. I gotta talk to this guy. And usually we get a lot of emails, and we have a system in place of scheduling people. But this guy, I was like, I want to talk to him right now. And of course, he's the one person that doesn't leave his phone number. And so I shoot him an email, and I'm just playing the waiting game, because when you text somebody, they text right back. And weeks go by, nothing. And then he finally emails me back, and he comes on the show, and he tells this story. Now, he's around my age. I'm 36, and I think he was like 32. And he was about 15 years old, living in Kentucky, the Daniel Boone National Forest area. And him and his grandfather were coon hunters, and they went out coon hunting. But his grandfather was in bad shape, so he had to stay in the truck. He's just old man. And so they had radios. They let the coon hounds go, and they got on a scent, and they just took off, and they treat a raccoon. And so he's trying to catch up to them, and you can hear the dogs barking. So he's just following the barks, and he's going through the woods, and then they hear all these dogs barking, like other dogs, and it was coyotes coming in. And his grandfather got on the radio and said, you better get over those dogs before the coyotes get there, because if the coyotes get there before you get there, there's going to be a fight. And so he's booking it, trying to get there. He didn't get there in time, and there's a fight that breaks out. And he has two dogs. One's named Jake, and the other one's named Bo. And Bo's the younger dog. Jake is like the legendary dog of the area. Everybody knew this dog. He was the best hunting dog around, very experienced, very good. And you hear the dogs fighting these coyotes, and then you can hear, he said you could hear Bo run off. Just Bo left Jake, and he's like, dude, good luck, and then Jake is fighting these coyotes, and Jake's a much bigger dog than the coyotes are, and fights the dogs off. They kind of back off, but then they come back in again, and they start going at Jake because they want the raccoon, they want the dog, they're just going crazy. He said that he heard another dog come back in, and his other dog Bo come back in for this fight, and they started fighting, and they fought off these coyotes. Coyotes ran away. He just arrives on the scene, and his dog Jake turns around back to the tree and starts howling up the tree, treeing that raccoon, doing his job. And so he goes over and he pats Jake on the head, and he hears Bo on the other side of the tree, and it sounded like Bo was still chomping down on a coyote. And so he walks around the tree, and to his surprise, it wasn't his dog Bo that was chomping down on a coyote. It was a very, very large dog. He said the dog was so big that it was holding a coyote in its mouth by the rib cage. And he said when he was only I think he said about 5 feet from this thing, he walks around the tree, sees this thing, it stops, looks at him, and then it stands up on its hind legs. And he said that, I think he said it was probably like 7 feet tall or something like that. I'd have to remember. It's a very long story I'm condensing. But it stands up, and he takes off running, and this thing takes off after him. And his dog Jake intervened multiple times during this chase to get between him and this giant dog man. And the first time, the dog man just threw his dog Jake, and then Jake comes back in for more, and then threw him again or something like that. But he threw him again for the second time, and the way he got thrown and the way Jake sounded, he's like, Jake's dead. Like, Jake's dead and I'm dead. And then he said that he fell over, and this thing's about to come at him. And then he said for the third time, Jake came out of nowhere and just pounded this thing from the side. And he heard this, he got up and ran, and he heard this thing just tearing his dog Jake to shreds. I mean, just completely demolishing his dog. And he's 15 years old, and he comes running back to his truck. And he on his way back to the truck, he's just crying and yelling for Jake. Come on, Jake. You can come on, Jake. Come on. Jake's not coming. And he jumps in the truck and his grandfather's like, what is going on? And he's like, just go. And so they go, and he's telling his grandfather what happened that night. And he said that his grandfather told him, listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're going to hunt these woods, there are things in these woods that you need to come to grips with that you're not going to understand, but they're there. And if you're not willing to accept it, you're not going to be a great hunter. And it kind of hit him hard. And his grandfather said, tomorrow we're going to come back and we're going to look for Jake. And he said, Grandpa, there's no point of coming back for Jake. Jake is gone. Like, this thing tore him to pieces. And he said, if Jake did what you say he did for you, then you owe it to him to go look for him. And so the next day they went out in the morning. They're looking all over the place. They can't find Jake. Bo never showed up. Bo's gone too. And they go back home. And that night they decide to go back out one more time. And they're driving down a road. And out of these bushes, they see movement. And a dog is standing there. And his grandfather's, look, there's Bo. Get your leash, go get Bo, get him on leash, get him in the truck. So he goes over, and as he gets closer, it wasn't Bo, it was Jake. Jake freaking survived. He said the dog was shredded to pieces. His ear was looked like noodles. Like, it was just shredded. His body was distorted, and parts of his insides were showing, all that disgusting stuff, barely surviving. But that day when they went out in the morning, they're yelling for him. And so if Jake's still alive, he hears it. His grandfather, on the way back to the house after that morning, threw his coat out on the side of the road so that Jake would smell it and come and come find him. So when he came back to get his coat, if Jake could get to the coat, they'd see him. And that's
smart.
Yeah. So they put Jake in the back of the truck, get him home. His grandmother was not an official vet, but in the area, people brought the animals to her to take care of. And he said they nursed him back to health, and Jake survived and lived to be an old dog. He was never the same hunter as he was before. He kind of he still hunted. They took him out hunting, but he just wasn't as good. And 2 weeks later, a local shop somewhere not far away found Bo and called the number on the collar, and they got Bo back too. And so that story for me, the way all the details that he shares was just one of those things where it's either this guy's lying straight up or this really happened, And I 100% believe Kyle, to the point that in October, the first week of October, I'm going to Kentucky to the Daniel Boone National Forest, and I'm spending a week there. He's going to take us to the location that this happened at. And during this whole fight, Jake lost his collar, and it was a metal collar. So we're going to be metal detecting, trying to find the collar, because if we can, if we can find the collar, it would lend to all the credibility in the world that his story is legit. It would be a piece of that, giving people look, we found his collar, but we're also going out there hunting for the dog, man. We're bringing some big guns, and I'm picking up roadkill on the side of the road, throwing it back in my truck. We're gonna be hanging it from trees. I mean, I'm going all out on it. I'm just, because I 100%, he's not the only story. So Kentucky is known for the dog, man, going back decades. He says that his grandfather used to talk about this thing called the slewfoot, and he never knew what the slewfoot was, but there's an old blues grass song that is called something slewfoot, and the lyrics are talking about a bear, but the bear runs 90 miles an hour, jumps 30 feet, and all these things that bears don't do. And then he found out that from his grandfather, that when his grandfather's saying slewfoot, his grandfather's referring to the dog man. So when he was a kid, he was laying by the window at his grandparents' house inside, and his grandfather picked him up and moved him from the window before he went to bed. And so the next day he asked his grandfather, why did you move me from the window? And he said, so the slewfoot wouldn't reach in and get you. And his grandfather was serious.
Wow.
So, but he didn't know what slewfoot was, because according to the old song that he knew, it was a bear. But when you take the idea, apparently slewfoot is a dog man, and you take the idea of bear out of that song and you listen to the lyrics and you replace it with dog man, all of a sudden it makes a whole lot more sense.
Whoa.
And then there's also in Kentucky the land between the lakes on the other side of the state, LBL, and there's a lot of dog man stories that come out of there. Families have been tormented by this thing. So we're going in the middle of dog man country, and we're hoping to come out with a head. So we'll see what happens.
That you need a television show.
Well, I do actually have one. So it's funny you bring that up. I started a YouTube show on the Confessionals YouTube channel. I started a sub show called Legion of Legends, where I go out hunting for these things that, I've heard about so many years on the show. And so, this trip to Kentucky is part of that. It's part of Legion of Legends. And we're also doing treasure hunting, urban exploration. Like I did an urban exploration video not too long ago, actually, maybe 15 minutes from my house. There's an old abandoned industrial park, like 20 buildings, hasn't been touched since the 80s. And so you can't go in there, but I broke in and I'm walking around and I'm assuming I'm the only one there, and I'm exploring. And all of a sudden I hear these motorcycles off in the distance, like, what the heck? And all of a sudden I just hear this wham, wham, and they're just come flying down. And I was like, holy crap, I'm freaking in here with 2 cameras, thousands of dollars of equipment. I don't know who these guys are. And I'm expecting to be alone. And I forgot my gun at home. So I'm like, crap. And so there's an interesting video because people got to see me run away from these guys. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. And my brother and I just went out to a forest this past Friday, and we had some crazy stuff happen. We spent the night in an old World War II prisoner of war camp.
Fuck that.
And dude, listen. So apparently, just about every state had a camp, at least one camp during World War II, but not every state had interrogation camps. Well, Pennsylvania actually had an interrogation camp where the first stop was Nazis and Japanese soldiers going to this camp to be interrogated. And so, like, my initial finding of this camp, I was like, man, like, did we torture Nazis here? Like, what's the storyline that I can go with? And I started reading and stuff. I'm like, Nazis torturing people, check. Japanese, absolutely, check. Americans, I couldn't find anything on us being awful to the soldiers. And I'm like, dang it, this is killing my storyline.
Right.
And then as I was reading more and more, I found out that Nazis in these interrogation camps, that they felt like another Nazi that was just interrogated was too friendly or something like that, they killed him. So like Nazis were killing, it was Nazi on Nazi crime going on.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so I was like, that's the angle I can go with. So I went in there and, in the middle of this state forest. And I mean, me and Jack went in there, my brother Jack, we went in there and it was out there. And, we get there and this state forest is known for Bigfoot and Dogman activity. Very well known. And, but our thing was the POW camp. I mean, the forest isn't going anywhere. We can do a Bigfoot investigation sometime, it can be a underlying story theme for the video though. And, we got there at 10:30 at night. And so we didn't get a chance to set up camp. We were planning on setting up hammocks in the middle of this prisoner of war camp and sleeping in hammocks. And
that is something I can promise you I would never do. I'm not interested in doing that. You want to go camp out on a pyramid in Mexico? I'm your guy. You want to go drink ayahuasca at a pyramid in Mexico? I'll be right there. You want to go spend the night in a POW camp where they tortured Nazis? Fuck that shit. I'm not doing any of that.
So like, I'm a little crazy, and so
listen, I like it. I'm interested. I'm interested in watching the show.
Yeah,
that's for sure. From the comfort of my own house.
Well, and that's why I'm making the show, because most people are like you, and so. But I wanted to go to this place, and we got there late, and so we didn't set up a camp. We're just like, we're just going to go and start filming. And so we're walking around, and I'm talking like the grass is, I'm 6 feet tall. The grass was 2 feet higher than me. Like, and we're walking this thin trail, like a game trail. And I'm just like, yo, there could be anything on either side of us. We wouldn't even know. We had a night vision camera, and my brother had that one. And we get to this point where this trail that we were on turned into absolutely nothing. It was like a flat area. There was no more trail. And I'm just like, well, I guess I don't know where else to go, And so, because I don't want to walk around the woods at night and not even on a trail. That's not smart. So we stopped there, and I got a K2 meter out, which reads the EMF field, the electromagnetic fields. And, I got it out just to see, are we going to get any hits out here? And I'm the kind of person, I'm not going to be like, is there anybody here with us? If so, please make this spike red. I'm just like, if there's something here, it will spike. And so I just got it out and I turned it on. I turned my camera off so it wouldn't interfere. I turned my light off. My brother's standing about 6 feet away from me and he has his night vision camera going. And so he's filming and the meter starts hitting. And I'm just like, okay, it's going about halfway. And I'm just like, this is interesting. And as we're standing there, all of a sudden, man, and before I was a podcaster, I used to go out in the woods hiking off trail for miles in search of the elusive Bigfoot. I never saw a Bigfoot. I never heard of Bigfoot. Nothing. I was fascinated by it, but I never had an experience. Here we are doing like ghost hunting in the middle of a prisoner of war camp, and we're getting hits on our meter. And then all of a sudden, off in the distance, we just hear this classic Bigfoot yell. It just went, ah, like real loud and long. And then it drops off real hard. And then it's like either a response by another one or the same one, but it's just like a shorter, it's just like, oh, and I was just like, what the heck? And so I would have been
freaking out.
Dude, we are deep in the woods. We don't have a trail anymore. We were following a game trail. Bigfoot wasn't even on my mind. And then all of a sudden I hear this freaking thing yell off in the distance. I've heard recordings of this before, like this is not new to me. Like I'm not like, I wonder what that could be. I know exactly what that is, And so I looked at my brother and this is on video. My eyes were like popping in my head. I was like, are you kidding me? And I said to him, we got that on audio, right? On video. And he's like, yeah, man. And so I'm like, time to go, So it's like time to get back to the truck. One, I'm a little nervous. Also, I'd like to check this video out. Dude, we get lost going back because apparently you're following a game trail and there were game trails branching off this way that we couldn't see going this way. And we come back, there's 3 game trails and it's like, pick one. I'm like, crap. And so we finally get back to the truck. We opened up the laptop and we pop in the SD card. And dude, earlier in the night, this is crazy. Earlier in the night when we went back to the truck the first time because it started raining, we waited for about an hour, got out. We set our cameras on the hood of the truck. My brother gets in the truck and rocks the truck, and his camera falls on the ground. And so I'm like, oh my gosh! Like I picked it up, the camera, not even a scuff on. I was like, oh, it's good, it's working, everything. We didn't see that his microphone cord was snapped from the fall. So we didn't get it on audio because I turned my camera off to do the K2 session. I was like, of all the moments that I turn my camera off, we get that?
Oh my God.
Are you kidding me? And so like now, I mean, the video went from being a 10 to like a 7. Like the next morning we woke up and we went to like a old ruined building and we set a camera on it and we just kind of stood there talking about the whole trip and what happened and stuff. We're going to overlay us narrating it with the video. But like, dude, it went, and now I'm going to be dealing with, people are going to go online, they're going to watch it, they're going to say, oh, he's lying, he's acting, he's lying. Of course. I mean, of course. Or why would you ever turn your camera off? Why don't you have
just get ready? Why don't you get ready for it, man? It's coming.
I mean, why don't you have
what a dumb move. Whatever. But listen, you now, I would say this. Here's the one positive. Wherever you went, like now you know that there's fish in that pond. You know what I'm saying? You know that there's something in that. Now it's not to say that it'll happen every time, but at least you now can confirm that is a place that could have. If you heard it once, maybe it's reasonable to think you could hear it again and maybe be better prepared. So
I'll tell you, I came home the next day and I got on the phone with 2 guys that I know researched that forest. And the one guy told me, he said, dude, I will take you out, because he actually researches the area I was at. And he's like, I'll take you out to places that these things have seen, like the locations of these things where they've been. And I'm like, I'm down, bro. Let's go. Yeah, let's freaking go. Like if I die by Bigfoot, at least I know I die believing, It's just like, it is what it is at that point. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be telling it, but somebody else. As long as you catch it on film, put it on my YouTube channel, it'll go viral. My family will be taken care of. That's all I care about.
But then the quality of this Macroaggressions show is going to drop off dramatically if I'm not.
No.
If you are, if you are not making the engineering magic and the beautiful sounds happen, then it'll just be my dumb ass trying to figure it out.
No, that's not true, because I have made a copy of myself and my brother. My brother knows how to do everything I do. I've taught him how to do it.
All right, well, that's good.
He produces, me and my dad have a podcast called Hammer Lane Legends, where it's a similar format as the confessionals, only we talk to people who drive for a living, truck drivers, Uber drivers, bus drivers, and they tell their crazy, wild experiences from the job. And my brother produces that show. And people think I produce it because it sounds like my production, but it's because I taught him how to do it. I mean, we spent hours I showed him everything I do down to the tiniest details. And so, yeah, I mean, don't worry. If I die, Jack will take over Merkle Media.
Okay, but for those that are wondering why the show sounds so nice in the way it does, it's because Tony works his magic on it, makes it sound all pretty.
I try.
Yeah. I was talking to Darren Grimes of Grammarica, actually both the guys, they were doing tours this summer through parts of Utah and parts of I think it was Idaho, I think it was also Nevada, with Randall Carlson, and who a lot of people recognize because he'll go on Rogan from time to time. He was on there with Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan's show, the three of them before. And the Grammarica guys put together this package where they just invite, they made it an option for their listeners to come and do this like week-long experience with them. And it was so successful that they wound up doing another one, and that sold out like immediately. I got to think that there's like I got to think that there's a market for this, for like the paranormal experiences, right? Like you could say, listen, there's a liability, there's a waiver that says, I can't promise you that anything crazy is going to happen, but this is the place where things happen, and you get a bunch of people together and go. I mean, I think that would be fun. Can we do that? Are we doing that?
Oh yeah. I do.
Will
I
you
do
do that, please?
I do it. I do it. So I
know, but I mean, like, I want you to do like a lot of them.
I'm planning on it
so that everyone can go like have a like put it, like something, cross it off their bucket list of some crazy shit to do. Like, I'm going to go on I swear to God, I'm going to spend 5 days and go hunt for Bigfoot. And like your wife gives you this thing, like, happy birthday, honey. Boom. You're going Bigfoot hunting or watching or whatever. So, so what are you guys doing over there?
So, all right. So I have to work out that stuff for the woods, because it's such a uncontrolled environment for me to, I get very nervous bringing people in on that, because it's like, if they get injured, if they hurt themselves, how do I handle the liabilities? And then on top of it, I don't go in the woods without a gun. And I don't want everybody that comes bringing guns and stuff. So there's a lot of things like that too I got to worry about. But we do the paranormal angle of things, where like we just, I think last month we took 14 people on a bus tour from the Philly area, which is where I live, up to New York, to a place called Burnbrae Mansion, which is a very haunted mansion. We rented a tour bus. We rented the driver. All the food was paid for. We stopped at a megalith park on the way up. We got to the mansion. We took out the entire mansion. Nobody else was there except for us. And we brought in a paranormal investigation team, and they walked our people through paranormal investigations that night. Got to sleep in this mansion overnight, and then travel back and stuff. It's a big fun trip, And what I'm doing though is, instead of opening it up to a lot of people, I keep the numbers kind of limited, because what I'm doing is, like, I've done things like I did a live show in Houston maybe 2-3 years ago, and that live show sold 200 tickets. It was like $25 a ticket, and people could come and I put on like a live show for an hour. They stand in a line and they get to meet me and shake my hand kind of thing. And that's it. You know, I took that model and flipped it on its head. And instead of an hour show, we're doing over 24 hours together and less people. So instead of a lot of people for an hour, we're doing 24 hours with less people. And so you get more of my attention. You get to kind of hang out with me, do a paranormal trip. Like I think we're planning on in November doing a place called Wilson Castle in Vermont, which is a legit castle, haunted castle. And so we're going to take people up there. And so it's a much more controlled environment, though. I mean, we stop at places to eat. You have a bed to sleep in. There's no sleeping on rocks. You wake up and you have a weird pain and you want to blame the confessionals for it. It's like, you know, right. But yeah, we're doing things like that. It's a lot of fun, though. I like doing that because you get to connect with the people on a more individual level and get to know them. It was a lot of fun.
We could do that in the conspiracy world. We could just,
yeah,
we could do that.
You know, your first destination would be just like camp on the Clintons' front lawn. Like, guys, we're doing it. We're just going to camp on the Clintons' front lawn until they tell us to get out. You know, or they call the cops, and then we all just run.
Yeah, I could see, Corey Hughes out there in Dealey Plaza with like measuring tape and and doing all these things. Yeah, It just seems like such a fun idea for people to be able to like, get away. And I know Midnight Mike had on OBDM had this guy on who runs a tour of like I think it was Columbus, Ohio, of all these like haunted places, and he's turned it into like a bus tour, where you just kind of go around to all these haunted places. I think it'd be a really fun idea to do that for what you said, like 24 hours, just like one full day.
Yeah, like we'll start on like a Friday afternoon, and we don't get back till like the Saturday afternoon later. So I mean, that's just the short trip. I mean, we might be doing trips to like Stonehenge, which is even longer. But that's all. Who knows if we can travel, but we'd like to do it if we can.
Well, while you do your Stonehenge, we'll do our Georgia Guidestone tour.
Dude, man.
Where we can take pictures of everybody pissing on the Georgia
Did I tell you what I just did with the Georgia Guidestones recently?
No, what?
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy you brought that up. I thought you were referring to... So I got on this kick and I was like, I want to find out who built these freaking things. Because if I can find out who built this number one rule, keep the world population to 500 million, then maybe if we can know who's behind that, maybe it will have some clues to what's going on in the world. And so I need to talk to the only person on the face of the earth that knows who R.C. Christian is. And so I did digging. I found Wyatt Martin's phone number and I called him.
Who's Wyatt Martin?
He's the banker that handled R.C. Christian's account to build the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh, okay.
So like he's the only person on the face of this earth that's breathing that knows the true identity of R.C. Christian.
Okay.
And he has sworn to R.C. Christian that he would never reveal it and he'll take it to his grave. And so I'm like, I gotta find this guy. I found him, and I had quite a few numbers, and so I called one of the numbers, and this old lady answers. I'm like, "Hi, is Wyatt Martin there?" And she's like, "Hang on." And she just walks into the room and she's like, "Wyatt, somebody's asking for you." And he said something about Georgia Guidestones, and he just got on the phone. I'm like, "Hi." And I started talking to him, and we talked for like 25, 30 minutes. And he didn't say, he would not tell me. He says he won't tell me, but he said I can call him anytime. And then he called me like a few days ago, and I missed the phone call. So I got to call him back to see if he has a change of heart or what. But it looks like maybe Legion of Legends, my show, might be going to the Georgia Guidestones to do a whole episode.
Dude, you tell that guy, listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but when you think you're about to die, I'm going to need you to call me. All right. Because you are not taking this to your death. You have got to let this out. I wonder if you could I wonder if you could if you wanted to when were they built, and you could go through and try and get his phone records.
So all the documentation has been destroyed, they say, and they were built, I think, in the early 80s. And from what I understand, the only record available for anything is in his head, in his brain. He knows who R.C. Christian is. He told me R.C. Christian is dead now, and I'm like, that's fine. I need to know who he is, though, because he's like, it wouldn't matter because he's dead, and I'm like, no, it really does matter because I think what I need to do is talk to him, get to know him, and get him to understand where I'm coming from. Where I think that I have a suspicion that maybe R.C. Christian, whoever that was, might not have been truthful with him. And if he wasn't truthful with him as to his real reasons for building these things, maybe who he truly is would help us understand why the world is the way it is. Because when I was talking to him, he said that, they told him that they were really scared that there was going to be nuclear fallout and the remaining human beings would need to know some kind of guidance as to how to rebuild humanity. And so they built the Georgia Guidestones in 8 different languages. But I think I need to get him to understand that what if that's not true, though? What if that's what they told you because it was a convenient thing for back in the early 80s to say? But maybe there was something more sinister going on that they just didn't tell you. And if you told me who R.C. Christian was, I might be able to connect dots that would point to what's happening in the world today and why things are happening the way they're happening.
So you think the banker might be a good guy, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. He
thinks that this is like the idea behind the Georgia Guidestones is something like noble, like this is how you save humanity, not how you cull humanity, right? You think he might be kind of viewing this from maybe I'd say a trusting a little bit from a trusting perspective and maybe not from the way we see it, because the way I see it is maintaining humanity at 500,000 people means depopulating 90% of the people that are on the planet right now. That's how I read it. I think that's how most people read it. He could be, if for some reason he was told that the story is that, from time to time, humanity gets bottlenecked with these cataclysms, whether it's like the Tova earthquake thing that took the population down to, I think, 2,000 couples. And that's what they talk about. And these events which create, shortages of people have happened. And so if they told him that, and that was the reason for putting this out there, it was a guidepost for humanity to help humanity remember what they might have forgotten. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to be super naive to believe that, frankly.
Yeah, I know. But I just think that he knew who R.C. Christian was. When he first was introduced to R.C. Christian, before he even knew what he wanted, he just looked at him as a regular man. And I think he just has always been in this mindset of, they were just really worried about nuclear fallout. Back then, that was a real concern. And they wanted to do something to, help humanity. And a lot of people have said, R.C. Christian, Rosicrucian, and kind of try to make the connections there.
Thought of that.
Yeah, and some people say that R.C. Christian was Ted Turner.
Yeah, I've heard Ted Turner's name be mentioned. I thought he to me was always one of the suspects because he's a Georgia guy and he's a Malthusian genocidal maniac. He fits the bill, and he had a lot of money. So, I mean, he could finance, and he's got a big ego, so he could finance these vanity projects or anything. But if this guy said that the true person is actually dead, then I think we all know it's George H.W. Bush, right? It's got to be.
There you go. I mean,
why not?
Why not?
Why not? Because staying in the same vein as everything else that reprehensible scumbag did during his lifetime, it would in fact be in line with it. My second guess would have been Henry Kissinger, except that Henry Kissinger is currently still alive. Though if there's any good fortune in our future, it will be a newspaper or news headline that Henry Kissinger is finally gone.
I mean,
to outer space.
How long can that guy live? I mean, these people,
I don't know.
The worst of the worst live forever. It's like come on. I mean, the good guy down the street that everybody likes, he's a great neighbor. He helps you out. He digs your own driveway out every winter with snow, and he dies at 56 from a heart attack. But freaking Henry Kissinger can live to be 130,000 years old.
He's the fattest 97-year-old man I've ever seen in my life, too. Normally they get, I saw Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter turned into a puppet. Did you see how small he got? I mean, Did you see that picture with the Bidens? It looked like it was some sort of weird camera sort of angle, but it made them look like little people. Yeah, we're definitely, I mean, I don't know about the Georgia Guidestones. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's them calling their shot or what, but we definitely see a push towards that in, through the World Economic Forum and their policies. And it would make sense that, some wealthy, entitled person that has a view of humanity where, that we're all taking up too much space on their planet, they might want to, put a little warning sign out there. It's a fascinating thing. I'd be curious to know what that guy wanted when you say he called you back.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. I was like, cause he's 90 years old himself.
90.
Yeah. And so I was thinking
he's not buying green bananas, man. You might want to call him back immediately.
I know. Let me write this down actually right now. But I was thinking, I wonder if maybe, one of his kids or something, he told one of his kids that I called and they were calling to say, leave my dad alone or something. Because when I called him, I had heard that he doesn't want to talk to anybody about this. And so when I called, I was assuming that I'd hear either he or his wife say, we're not talking about this anymore, click, Right. Instead, I had a 35-minute conversation with the guy that only got cut off because my phone reception got bad. And so it's like, I don't know what that was about, but I got to call him back and talk to him and just see if we can build a relationship. And I mean, I'll go to Georgia for a week. I'll film Legion of Legends. I'll make a whole freaking video out of it. Yeah. And I'll sit with them and I'll talk with them and see, if I can just share with him how I view the world, how I see things, and get him to just at least see that how I view it, where if RC Christian wasn't forthcoming with him, now I know he believes that he was, but if he wasn't, and he was doing something even more sinister, according to what I feel and with what's going on in the world, what you have in your head might help all of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I told him that on the phone, and I don't think it really hit yet. And I just want to be able to spend some time with the guy and just talk with him and just share with him why it's very important that he releases the name of who RC Christian was, because if maybe it's nothing, maybe it truly is what he says it is. But what if he truly tells us the name of RC Christian, and then I shoot that name to you, and I shoot it to Sam Tripoli, and I say it to all these guys and stuff that I know, and I'm like, let's find out who this guy is. I can guarantee you within a week, we're going to have answers because the network is huge. Yeah. And maybe it would get us down a rabbit trail where all of a sudden we put the freaking deep state on red alert, and they're just like, whoa, oh, you can have your freedoms back. Go ahead, go back to sleep.
What? Yeah. Well, or we find out that it was all financed by Michael Jackson. And we're like, oh man. That's Tony Merkel, everybody. Well, tell these fine people where they can find your work.
Well, the main show that's behind me is The Confessionals. It's a paranormal podcast where I interview people on their paranormal experiences, and it's a new show every Tuesday, and it's a blast. Go ahead and check it out. A lot of people enjoy it, listening to other people's experiences. I also have Hammer Lane Legends, which is my other main gig, which is with me and my dad interviewing people in the trucking industry, transportation industry. A lot of laughing, a lot of funny stuff. In fact, I even listed the podcast underneath the category of comedy because it's just tons of laughing and just joking around and having fun. And then obviously the YouTube channel, The Confessionals, where I'll be posting Legion of Legends. And I do have one video up there where I was, searching that abandoned industrial park and got, running away from bikers and stuff. So I'm all over the place. Just look me up. Google me. Actually, DuckDuckGo me, Tony Merkel.
Yeah, and if you like this show, everybody take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. If you want to connect with me, you can do so through the website, The Octopus of Global Control. You can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions, and I will talk to you all next time. Take care.
You did it. You woke up today. You even got out of bed. You deserve a reward. We can't all be morning people, but we can all get McDonald's for breakfast.
Right now, mix and match a Chicken McGriddles or a McChicken Biscuit for just $3. Order ahead on the Mickey D's app. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal. Single item at regular price. Mobile order and pay at participating McDonald's.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.